We all make mistakes. A wrong answer on a test, a wrong turn on the highway, forgetting the one ingredient essential to your recipe. These things can be annoying, frustrating, upsetting and distressing, but they all eventually come back to beating yourself up for being a lummox. And today, I must confess to my own mistakes. I have made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment. I have made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment, and I don't expect to be forgiven. I fucked up my Airfix build. This was supposed to be a nice video where I build one of the other most iconic British airplanes, that being the British Aerospace Hawk T1, as flown by the Red Arrows. However, things went very wrong almost every step of the way. I could have not made this video, but I still think I have some valid points to glean from it and pass on to you, the viewers. So, I hope you enjoy this train wreck, because I sure didn't.
Get in there! Get in there! Get in there! Right, first step, paint, well, no, actually, read the instructions, and, then, paint small parts whilst they're on the sprue.
The process of building the kit was actually quite simple, considering it was a starter. That should have been obvious. And everything was going well. Unfortunately, there were a couple places where I touched a part when I had poly cement on my fingers and it made the surface go funny. But beside that, the build went swimmingly. Internal parts, like the Biggleses, were painted whilst on the sprue and inserted into the cockpit area.
Yes. That was, some cocoa chemistry salami. This isn't sponsored. I just genuinely really like this, this cocoa chemistry stuff. Also, cocoa chemistry hot chocolate bombs. They're over there out of shot. Delicious. Like, put them in some hot milk, and then and then they melt, and then they release a load of marshmallows when you stir it up. It's delicious. Trust me, this isn't sponsored. I'm not making any money of this. It's just genuinely delicious, and I have to tell someone about it. And buy cocoa chemistry.
I then constructed the wings and air intakes and attached them to fuselage. They fit well and were nice to make, as they could all be made separately and then glued together as just a few pieces. And with that, it was time to paint.
This is where the nightmare began. Hello. Slightly different location. Very different location. It's a completely different house. And it's also the day after Spooky Day. I wasn't allowed to go trick-or-treating because everyone else in my village only does it for youngsters, and I'm too old for it, apparently. Also, a load of idiot teenagers, I really should be saying that I'm also a teenager, went and started egging people's houses, so that's not fun. Anyway,
as I was painting the Hawk, I found that I was struggling to get the paint to a decent consistency. Too much water and the paint just turned into red water that hung about on the surface of the parts. Too little and brushstrokes became really visible on the surface and looked like shit. So there ended up being a rather uneven surface with a load of blotches, streaks, and even just blobs of unsmooth paint, which frustrated me immensely since my Spitfire turned out way better than this. And that had a complicated camo pattern and 3 separate colours that needed applying. This is just fucking red! I think the reason for this is that the Hawk has a lot of more complicated surfaces. I think the reason for this is that the Hawk has a lot more complicated surfaces than Spitfire, which is mostly flat. Hawk has lots of nasty nooks and crannies to get your paint into, so as a result the paint job was much more finicky to complete. I'll be honest, I think I prefer the older planes. Either way, after the paint was mostly done, I had a coat of satin varnish and prepared to apply the decals.
Okay, fuck, that's grown a lot since yesterday. I think I'm gonna have to get rid of this guy, I'm sorry.
The decals on this one are very finicky. They are long, thin, and have to wrap around complex shapes in order to look any good. They are annoying, frustrating, and take ages to put on the model. This clip compilation is a whole fucking week condensed into about 30 seconds. But unfortunately, about halfway through this, something bad happened. My camera fell off of its cheap bendy clamp onto my head, and then the Hawk. The damage was tragic.
It's ruined!
Had to glue the wing on again, and roughly paint over the bit of the sticker that had been ripped. But things never got any worse from there after that. Okay, that last part was a lie. Having done some more touch-up on the paint, it was finally time to apply the varnish. However, as I was applying it, some of the paint I had applied after the first coat flaked off and ended up on other bits, which was weird and also slightly annoying as it meant there were now red specks all over the white decals. That was no biggie. What was a biggie was that I'd applied too much varnish and it pulled around the nooks and crannies of the Hawk before drying into nasty yellow puckered globs. And there's no fixing this without moving all the paint and the decals as well, so now I'm stuck with a red arrow that looks like it's contracted leprosy. So, what have we learned from this? Well, let's take a good look at this and see if we can learn anything from this. Well, if we look past, or through, the varnish, my decal job was actually decently decent. This one here is a bit wonky, and some of them didn't fit right and had to be touched up with paint to bridge the gaps. This annoying one also folded over itself and I had to fix that too. The surfaces were quite hard to paint as they are more complex with lots of annoying bits jutting out. And finally, there is such thing as too much varnish. It's best to apply a few thin coats to cover the different bits of it than one or two thick coats that glow all globby. That's what I'll do next. At some point I might customise this to make it look all Mad Maxy with guns and stuff, but until then I think I'll just leave it be. With that, I'm sorry. Goodbye. Wait. Before you go, tune in soon for my next air fixing video, which will be... Oh. I don't have any more kits. Those are the only two I bought. Oh dear. Well, to be more specific, tune in at some point after Christmas when my parents have bought me some more Airfix kits. Okay, back to the outro.